Hi guys, since Sony has now released 3 new wide-angle lenses for the APS-C system, we have a plethora of options to choose from. And I have tested all of these lenses, well, at least all of the autofocus lenses that I could get my hands on. So I'm going to tell you which ones I would buy in what situation. And it's Friday night, so I'm going to party like I like to on a Friday night, talking about lenses. Here we go. I took a real chance tonight wearing black because I have a cat, so I probably look ridiculous, but here is the thing, more ridiculous than usual. I have tested these lenses. I actually still have a couple of videos coming out comparing some of these lenses to each other, but here is what I'm talking about. These are autofocus lenses, wide angle for the Sony APS-C system. We'll start with the Sony lenses. There is the 11mm 1.8. There is the 10 to 20mm f4 for Sony and Sony's 15mm f1.4. I also am talking about the Sigma 16mm f1.4, the Viltrox 13mm f1.4, that's on my little ZV-E10 over here right now. I'm talking about the Samyang / Rokinon 12mm f2.0 and the Tamron 11 to 20 f2.8. So I'm going to talk about all of these lenses, what I would do, what I have done, and what I think you should do. So first I will talk in practical terms, and then I will end it with what I would do if I had infinite money and infinite resources, which I will have after this video goes ultra viral. So a bunch of people have asked me, what would you do if you could only buy one wide angle lens? Now let's say if I only had an APS-C system, like this is a Sony a7 III, I have a full frame system as well, but let's just say I had one camera, the ZV-E10 or another Sony APS-C camera, and I had to buy one lens for photo and for video. That lens would actually be the Tamron 11 to 20 2.8, because the 2.8 is bright enough to be able to use in a studio situation that I'm in. You can take landscape photos, low light is pretty good. That focal range of 11 to 20, you could do vlogging, you can do zoom all the way in to 20mm full frame equivalent, that is 30mm. That's a good focal range. It just covers you for pretty much everything. Now there is a caveat to this, is that if I only was going to buy one lens, and that one lens was a studio lens only, I wasn't going to take it out for landscape photos, I wasn't necessarily taking it out vlogging, then for me that would be the Sigma 16mm f1.4. And I know that because that is what I did. The only lens I had for quite a while for my APS-C lineup. I used it in the studio exclusively. I did use it out vlogging. It was a little bit tight, but that is the lens that I would use if I was buying one studio lens. Now, if you do have a little bit more money to spend and you're obsessed with that studio lens, the Sony 15mm f1.4 is a little bit better than the Sigma. The image quality is pretty much identical, but the Sony has better features. It has slightly better focus breathing, and it's better for gimbal work, and it's so small and light to take around. The aperture ring, the buttons, the switches. So if I had more money and I was buying one studio lens, then it would be the Sony 15mm f1.4. It's just that the Sigma is such a good lens in terms of quality, then it's nice that it is so much cheaper than the Sony. So now I will move on to vlogging, because I know a lot of people who watch this channel are interested in that aspect of the lenses. And to me, this one has to go to the Sony 11mm f1.8. And the reason is because it's just super wide. The only thing that's wider is the Sony 10 to 20 f4, but that is an f4. So you get that 1.8, so it's nice and bright. It's so small, it's so light, you can take it around on the lightest gimbal, my Zhiyun M2S. I can take it around with that, or not. I can just hold it in my hand. It is so small, and it's so light, and it is so wide, then it is just a treat to vlog with. The other lens you might want to consider in terms of vlogging is this guy right here, the Viltrox 13mm f1.4. This is your ultimate low light vlogging lens. That 1.4 will really do you well in low light situations. It's a bigger and a heavier lens than the Sony 11mm, and certainly not as wide. However, it is still quite wide, and it's a 1.4. So depending on your budget or how many low light situations you need, the Viltrox 13mm is a really good candidate. And this is also slightly better in the studio than the 11mm from Sony, because 13mm is closer to what most people would like in a studio than the wider 11. But there you go. For vlogging, I would say the number one choice should be the Sony 11mm 1.8, especially because you're going to do active crop on things like the ZV-E10, so you're going to want definitely a really wide lens for that. There is the Samyang 12mm f2, but the thing is, and maybe the copy of the lens I got wasn't great, but it's just the lens falls short to all of the other competitors. The Sony 11mm, the Viltrox 13, image quality, they really outdo the Samyang by a fair bit. They are much sharper, they are better with focus breathing, they are better with flare control, with ghosting. It's also an f2, which is nowhere near as bright as the 1.4 from Viltrox, or the 1.8 from Sony is also brighter, and it struggles in low light maintaining autofocus, whereas all of the other lenses I am talking about are excellent in low light in terms of autofocus. So now what will I do when this video hits 1 billion views and I have the money to buy all of the lenses if I want? The answer is I would just get the 3 Sony lenses. Then I'm just covered for everything. I have the 15mm, which is the best APS-C lens overall that I have used, period. I would have that for the studio. I would have the 11mm for the vlogging. I would have the 10-20 for my landscapes, and also all those 3 lenses, they are fantastic for gimbal work because they're so small and light, and the 10-20 is an internal zoom, so that is also excellent for video and gimbal work. Not to mention there is 0 focus breathing on these 3 lenses. Even if you don't use focus breathing compensation, the a7 IV, if you're just using it on the ZV-E10, you just don't see any focus breathing, and that is absolutely remarkable. And the aperture rings and the switches and the buttons, and it's just, so I would just do the Sonys if money was no object. Now, money is always an object, so what, practically speaking, would I do if I had no lenses whatsoever? Well, what I would probably do is pick up the, and I was going to choose for all of the things that I do, okay? So I'll tell you what I do. I do landscape photography, I do studio work, and I do vlogging. So if I am to cover all of those things, I would get the Sigma 16mm f1.4, which I already do own. I would get the Tamron 11-20 2.8, and I would probably get the Sony 11mm f1.8, just because that's such a wide, nice vlogging lens. Now, of course, you got to choose the combination that is right for you, and what I just said is not what I have or what I will do, because I am very cheap and I don't buy lenses very often. The only lens that I have actually purchased for the APS-C system still is the Sigma 16mm f1.4. Viltrox sent over this wonderful 13mm lens for review, and I got to keep this lens. That doesn't happen very often, but Viltrox just left it here, so I do really like that Viltrox lens. So I use the Viltrox for vlogging, and I use the Sigma 16mm for, I keep pointing as if it's on this camera because it usually is, or the ZV-E10 when it sits in front of me. This is the a7 IV with a 24mm G Master, but this Sigma 16mm, it competes with this lens. In fact, I have a whole video about that. I'll link that over my left shoulder, but it really does. The quality stands up to a 24mm G Master on my a7 IV. So I still have some videos coming out comparing some of the wide angle lenses, so stay tuned for those. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and go back and watch the videos I did do about these lenses so far to try to make an informed decision for yourself, because your specific needs, they may be different than my specific needs. So I am just, telling you what I think and what I would do and what I have done. And also, a lot of people have been asking about low light with these lenses, and low light is determined by your f-stop. You know, the lower the f-stop, the more light will be let in. So lenses that are 1.4 are going to be a whole lot better in low light than lenses that are f2.8 or f4. But there is some difference in terms of low light, in terms of their ability to autofocus. So stay tuned for a low light test with all of these lenses as well to show which ones do better in autofocusing, and so you can see the difference between what a 1.4 and an f4 look like when it's dark outside. Anyway, that's it for me. Don't forget to, give a thumbs up and give a like, leave a comment. I'll be sure to answer it, and we'll talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.